Yesterday it was Chrysler. Today it's General Motors. GM is telling more than 1,000 of its dealers today that they will be dropped.
And it looks like the former auto giant will soon join Chrysler in bankruptcy court. Here's reporter Jennifer Wishon.
Be prepared to drive farther to find your local American auto dealer. Today, General Motors is announcing that some 1,100 dealers are getting the axe, a hit list that includes dealerships in every state except Alaska. The struggling automaker is tightening its belt to match the drop-off in consumer demand. But in many communities, it feels like the end of an era as longtime family-run dealerships prepare to shut down their showrooms.
There's many people that will feel the ripple effect of any dealership going out of business.
One economist with the National Auto Dealers Association estimates the average dealer spends more than $16 million in their communities each year through taxes and charitable contributions. And now, facing a June 1st deadline to cut costs and debt, GM's CEO says bankruptcy is likely. In fact, some say they're not sure how the ailing auto giant can restructure without Chapter 11 protection.
Your agreement will be rejected on or about June 9th.
The release of GM's list of dealers to be shut down comes one day after Chrysler sent pink slips to 789 of its dealers.
What we're trying to do is an orderly wind down. We quit selling cars on Saturday, and right now we're just wrapping up any details of transactions in process.
It's a tough, emotional pill to swallow.
Shame on them.
Especially in an economy where jobs are tougher to come by. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News.
Our hearts and prayers goes out to the dealers who are being affected. This is going to be monumental. You're talking about thousands of jobs just evaporating overnight. The average dealership and the number of people employed, both in the repair shop, sales shop, the amount of money they spend on advertising every year, the amount of money they put back into the community, all going to be gone. So it's a time for me personally, mourning that what have we lost here? Some of the giants of industry, some of the names that made America great are now facing bankruptcy. Lee Webb has the rest of our top stories from the CBN Newsroom. Lee?
Gordon, Pope Benedict ended his 5-day trip to Israel today with a visit to Jerusalem's Church of the Holy Sepulchre. The church is on the site where many believe Jesus was buried and resurrected. The pontiff put aside his political statements of recent days. He said the gospel gives hope that God can make all things new and that the violent history of the Middle East doesn't have to be repeated. Women in Sweden can now have an abortion if they are not happy with the gender of their unborn child. Swedish health authorities have ruled that women can have abortions for any reason up to the 18th week of pregnancy. The Swedish newspaper The Local reports the issue came up when a woman had 2 abortions because of the gender of those babies. She already had 2 daughters. The U.S. does not have a specific law that addresses gender-based abortion. A clear majority of Americans, though, now call themselves pro-life, according to a new Gallup poll. 51% say they are pro-life, while 42% are pro-choice. It is the first time a majority of U.S. adults have labeled themselves pro-life since Gallup began asking the question in 1995. President Obama says he wants Congress to quickly send him legislation ending abusive credit card practices. He wants to stop companies from raising interest rates suddenly and charging high late fees. He says, quote, those days are over. But he also says credit card users shouldn't take on more debt than they can handle.
It's time for strong, reliable protections for our consumers. It's time for reform that's built on transparency and accountability and mutual responsibility.
The House recently approved a bill to protect consumers, and the Senate is working on a similar measure. Mr. Obama is demanding a bill be on his desk by Memorial Day, Gordon.
I'm all for this one. I think it's about time that we stop the predatory lending practices where you're solicited to go into debt and go into serious debt, and then once you miss a payment or are late on a payment, then the credit card companies have the right to take the interest rate to astronomical levels, whether it's 20, 30, I've heard even higher than 30%. And these are all on consumer purchases. So I applaud the administration and the Congress for taking action and wish that it would pass the Senate soon.